doing taking pictures of these houses?
The picture.
Taking pictures of my house for insurance documentation.
Your house? Which one's yours?
The one I'm standing in front of, 1247 Maple Drive. That house costs more than most people make in 10 years. Lucky for me, I'm not most people. I'm FBI Regional Director, and I'm the Chief of Police. Turn around. You're dumber than you look.
Officer Leo Garcia thought he was being proactive when he stopped Arthur Hale from photographing houses in Phoenix's most expensive neighborhood. 3 neighbors had called about a black man casing properties, and Garcia arrived ready to prevent crime. He never considered that Hale might actually own one of those houses, or that his federal credentials were real. The arrest that followed would end Garcia's 3-year career and prove that some mistakes cost $4.1 million. Quick pause. I love seeing how global our community is getting. Let me know in the comments which part of the world are you tuning in from today. Also, if you value independent storytelling that digs deeper for the truth, please hit that subscribe button. Your support is the only way we can keep exposing these untold stories. Arthur Hale had worked his entire career to reach this moment. At 52 years old, he stood as the FBI Regional Director for Arizona, overseeing federal law enforcement across the entire state. 27 years with the Bureau. 27 years of building cases, leading teams, and earning respect through competence and integrity. He'd started as a field agent in Detroit, worked organized crime in Chicago, counterterrorism in Washington, D.C., and violent crimes in Los Angeles. Each assignment had prepared him for greater responsibility, greater authority, greater trust. The appointment to regional director had come after a national search. FBI headquarters in Quantico had interviewed dozens of candidates from across the country. Hale's record was spotless. His leadership evaluations were exceptional. His ability to coordinate multi-agency operations was proven. When the call came offering him Arizona, he'd accepted immediately. Phoenix represented everything he'd worked toward: command of a major regional office, oversight of complex border security operations, a chance to shape federal law enforcement strategy across multiple jurisdictions. But success came with prices, and one of them was housing. As regional director, Hale earned $155,000 annually, good money that reflected his position and responsibilities. After years of government housing and modest apartments, he decided to buy something befitting his station. Something that reflected not just his success, but his permanence in Phoenix. He wasn't just passing through anymore. This was home. Maple Heights represented everything Hale had worked to achieve. The exclusive Phoenix neighborhood featured homes starting at $600,000 and climbing toward $1.2 million. Tree-lined streets with names like Prosperity Drive and Executive Circle. Manicured lawns that stayed green despite the desert climate. 3-car garages and circular driveways. The kind of neighborhood where success was visible, where achievement was rewarded with space and privacy and the quiet that money could buy. Hale had found 2047 Maple Drive through a realtor who specialized in executive relocations. A 2-story colonial with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a study perfect for reviewing classified materials at home. The asking price was $795,000. Hale had qualified easily, his federal employment and spotless credit history making the mortgage process straightforward. The down payment had come from savings accumulated over 2 decades of careful financial planning. Yesterday, Thursday, November 15th, he sat in the title company office and signed 47 pages of documents. Mortgage papers, deed transfers, insurance forms, homeowners association agreements. His name appeared on every page. Arthur Benjamin Hale, FBI Regional Director, sole owner of 2047 Maple Drive, Phoenix, Arizona. The keys had felt substantial in his hand, heavier than expected, carrying the weight of ownership and accomplishment. Today, Friday morning, was moving day. The Federal Relocation Service had handled his furniture, but personal documentation remained Hale's responsibility. His insurance agent had been explicit about requirements. Exterior photos from every angle, interior shots of each room, documentation of existing condition before personal belongings arrived. Standard procedure for high-value properties, but essential for protecting his investment. Hale had arrived at 2047 Maple Drive at 9:15 a.m., wearing comfortable clothes for a day of unpacking and organizing. Dark green hoodie, blue jeans, running shoes, off-duty casual, but appropriate for moving day tasks. His FBI credentials were in his jacket pocket, out of habit. His service weapon was locked in his car's glove compartment, standard protocol for off-duty federal agents. The neighborhood was quiet at mid-morning. Children at school, adults at work. the kind of peaceful affluence that had attracted Hale to Maple Heights. A few joggers passed by. A landscaping crew worked 3 houses down, normal suburban rhythms that Hale looked forward to joining. He'd started with exterior photos, working methodically around the house's perimeter, front elevation showing the covered porch and bay windows, side views capturing the garage and landscaping, rear shots documenting the deck and privacy fence. Professional, thorough, exactly what his insurance required. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, just a new homeowner, protecting his investment. But Chloe Harrison was watching from 2051 Maple Drive, 4 houses down. She lived in the neighborhood for 8 years, long enough to know every resident, every routine, every car that belonged, and every person who didn't. At 47 years old, she considered herself the unofficial neighborhood watch coordinator. She'd organized the annual block party, managed the holiday decoration committee, and maintained detailed mental notes about who lived where. That Friday morning, Chloe had been watering her front garden when she noticed a black man taking photographs. She didn't recognize him, which in Maple Heights meant he probably didn't belong. She watched for 15 minutes as he moved around the house with his phone, documenting every angle. In Chloe's experience, people who photographed houses from the outside were either real estate agents, insurance adjusters, or criminals planning break-ins. Since she hadn't heard about 2047 Maple Drive being listed for sale, and since insurance adjusters typically wore business clothes and carried clipboards, Chloe's mind settled on the third option. Someone was casing the house, probably planning to return later when residents were at work. The fact that the house appeared empty only reinforced her suspicions. At 9:31 a.m., Chloe called 911. Phoenix Police, what's your emergency? This is Chloe Harrison at 2051 Maple Drive in Maple Heights. There's a suspicious person taking photographs of houses in our neighborhood. Black male, maybe 50s, wearing a hoodie. I think he's planning break-ins. Is he currently committing a crime, ma'am? He's been photographing the same house for 20 minutes. That's not normal behavior. This is an expensive neighborhood and we've had problems before. I'll dispatch an officer to check it out. The call went out at 9:33 a.m. Suspicious person, possible casing activity, Maple Heights neighborhood. Officer Leo Garcia, patrolling 2 miles away, responded immediately. This was exactly the kind of proactive police work that kept crime statistics low and residents happy. Preventing break-ins before they happened, protecting property values, maintaining the safety that made neighborhoods like Maple Heights desirable. Garcia had been with Phoenix PD for 3 years, assigned to affluent districts where property crime prevention was a priority. He'd responded to dozens of similar calls, suspicious persons who turned out to be contractors, delivery drivers, or lost tourists. But some had been actual criminals. And Garcia's job was to determine which category this person fit. As Garcia drove toward Maple Drive, his mind was already forming assumptions. Expensive neighborhood, black male, taking photographs. Resident complaint, pattern recognition suggested someone who didn't belong, someone whose presence made longtime residents uncomfortable. Garcia's training emphasized community policing, maintaining trust with tax-paying residents who expected protection. At 9:38 a.m., Garcia pulled onto Maple Drive and immediately spotted his target. Black male, green hoodie, standing in the driveway of 2045 Maple Drive with a phone in his hand, clearly taking pictures. Exactly what the caller had described. Garcia parked his patrol car at the curb and approached with the confidence of someone who'd handled similar situations dozens of times before. Arthur Hale looked up from his phone and saw the police cruiser, then the uniformed officer walking toward him. His stomach tightened with familiar dread. He was a federal law enforcement officer, standing in his own driveway, documenting his own property. But he knew how this could go. He'd seen too many cases, heard too many stories, prosecuted too many civil rights violations to feel safe just because he had a badge. But Garcia was already forming his approach, already deciding what he was looking at, already preparing to investigate what appeared to be exactly what the caller had reported. A suspicious person in an expensive neighborhood, someone who probably didn't belong, someone whose presence needed to be explained and possibly ended. The two men faced each other across the driveway of 2247 Maple Drive, one with the authority to arrest, one with the authority to prosecute federal crimes. Neither yet understood what the other represented, but both were about to discover that assumptions in Maple Heights carried a price tag of $4.1 million. Garcia approached with the measured confidence of an officer who'd handled suspicious person calls hundreds of times. In his 3 years with Phoenix PD, he developed what his training sergeant called good instincts for spotting people who didn't belong. Those instincts had led to arrests, commendations, and the kind of proactive policing that kept property crime statistics low in affluent neighborhoods. "What are you doing taking pictures of these houses?" Garcia asked, his hand resting casually near his radio. Arthur Hale looked up from his phone, his expression calm but alert. 27 years in federal law enforcement had taught him to read situations quickly, and this one had all the warning signs of a confrontation based on assumptions rather than facts. "Taking pictures of my house for insurance documentation," Hale replied evenly. Garcia's eyes swept over Hale's casual clothes, then to the expensive house behind him, then back to Hale's face. The math didn't add up in Garcia's mind. Black man in a hoodie, $800,000 house, Friday morning in an exclusive neighborhood. "Your house? Which one's yours?" Hale gestured toward 247 Maple Drive, "The one I'm standing in front of, 247 Maple Drive." Garcia studied the house more carefully. Colonial architecture, professionally landscaped yard, 3-car garage, circular driveway, the kind of property that required substantial income to purchase, maintain, and insure. The kind of property that, in Garcia's experience, didn't typically belong to people who dressed like Hale. "That house cost more than most people make in 10 years, Garcia said, his tone carrying skeptical authority. "Lucky for me, I'm not most people. I'm FBI Regional Director," Hale responded, reaching slowly into his jacket pocket. Garcia's expression hardened. In his experience, people who claimed important positions when confronted by police were usually lying, trying to intimidate their way out of legitimate questioning. He'd heard claims of being lawyers, doctors, city council members, even judges. Most turned out to be false. "Right? And I'm the chief of police. Turn around." Hale's hand froze halfway to his credentials. "Officer, before you do something we'll both regret, let me show you my federal identification." I said turn around, hands behind your back. "Officer Garcia," Hale said, reading the name tape on Garcia's uniform. "I am FBI Regional Director Arthur Hale. I oversee federal law enforcement for the entire state of Arizona. This is my house. I purchased it yesterday. I have the deed, the keys, and federal credentials. All I'm asking is that you verify before you escalate." Garcia pulled out his handcuffs. "Sir, we received multiple calls about someone casing houses in this neighborhood. You match the description exactly. You've been here over 30 minutes taking photographs. You claim to live here, but you don't look like you can afford a house in Maple Heights." "Don't look like I can afford it." Hale's voice carried a sharp edge. "What exactly does someone who can afford an $800,000 house look like, Officer Garcia?" "Someone who dresses appropriately for an expensive neighborhood. Someone who neighbors recognize. Someone who doesn't spend 30 minutes photographing houses from the outside." Hale slowly pulled his FBI credentials from his jacket, a black leather case with the distinctive gold badge and official identification card. He held it up for Garcia to examine. "Federal Bureau of Investigation, Regional Director, Arthur Benjamin Hale, badge number 2847, 27 years of service. Now do you want to reconsider your approach?" Garcia glanced at the credentials, but his expression remained skeptical. Anyone can buy a fake badge online. Anyone can print official-looking ID cards. "These aren't fake, Officer Garcia. Call the FBI Phoenix Field Office. Call your supervisor. Call anyone who can verify federal credentials. Don't make this mistake." The only mistake would be letting someone talk their way out of legitimate police work because they have a convincing fake badge. A white woman emerged from the house next door, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Elizabeth Chen, 72 years old, had lived at 2045 Maple Drive for 15 years. She'd watched the interaction from her kitchen window and decided to intervene. "Officer, is there a problem?" she asked, approaching the edge of her property. "Police business, ma'am. Please go back inside," Garcia replied without taking his eyes off Hale. "That's the new owner," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "He moved in yesterday. I saw the moving trucks. He introduced himself to me yesterday evening. Very polite young man." Garcia turned to face Mrs. Chen. "Ma'am, are you certain this person lives at 2047 Maple Drive?" "Absolutely certain, Arthur Hale. FBI. He showed me his business card yesterday when he introduced himself, said he was documenting the house for insurance purposes." Garcia's confidence wavered slightly, but his commitment to the arrest remained firm. "Ma'am, people lie about their identities. People show fake business cards. I need to verify everything through proper channels." Hale reached into his other pocket and pulled out a set of house keys, holding them up for Garcia to see. These are the keys to 125th and Maple Drive, given to me yesterday at closing by Desert Mountain Title Company. You want proof I live here? Let's walk to the front door and I'll unlock it. Keys can be copied. Keys can be stolen. Officer Garcia, I'm trying to cooperate with you, but you're making this very difficult. I'm standing in my own driveway, on my own property, with my own keys, my federal credentials, and a neighbor who can vouch for me. What exactly would convince you that I belong here? Garcia's radio crackled. Unit 47, status on your suspicious person call. Garcia keyed his radio. Unit 47, still investigating. Subject claims to be a federal agent and homeowner, but story doesn't check out. Garcia, Hale said quietly. My deputy, Agent Maria Cruz, is expecting my call in 20 minutes. When I don't call, she's going to send agents to check on me. Your body camera is recording everything. Your supervisor is going to review this footage. Think very carefully about your next decision. My next decision is to follow proper procedure with someone who's been reported for suspicious activity and can't provide convincing proof of legitimacy. Can't provide convincing proof? Hale's voice rose slightly. I've shown you federal credentials, house keys, and had a neighbor vouch for me. What more do you need? I need you to comply with a lawful police investigation without trying to intimidate me with claims about your position or connections. Hale pulled out his phone. I'm calling the FBI Phoenix field office right now. You can speak directly to Special Agent in Charge Rodriguez. She'll confirm my identity, my position, and my authority. Garcia knocked the phone from Hale's hand, sending it skittering across the driveway pavement. Don't reach for anything. Don't make any sudden movements. You're under arrest for suspicious activity and failure to cooperate with a police investigation. Failure to cooperate? Officer Garcia, I've shown you everything you've asked for. I've answered every question. I've tried to de-escalate this situation at every turn. What you're doing right now is arresting a federal law enforcement officer in his own driveway for the crime of being black in an expensive neighborhood. Turn around, hands behind your back. Mrs. Chen stepped closer, her voice sharp with indignation. Officer, this is wrong. Arthur lives here. He's done nothing illegal. You're making a terrible mistake. Garcia ignored her and approached Hale with handcuffs ready. Sir, you're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Hale raised his hand slowly, palms visible. Officer Garcia, I'm complying with your unlawful arrest under protest. I am FBI Regional Director, Arthur Hale. This is my house. I was documenting it for insurance purposes. You are arresting a federal agent for exercising his property rights. This is being recorded by your body camera, witnessed by my neighbor, and will be reviewed by federal authorities. You still have time to make a different choice. The only choice I'm making is to do my job and investigate suspicious activity reported by concerned residents. The handcuffs clicked shut around Hale's wrists, tight enough to cut into his skin. 27 years of federal service, thousands of arrests he'd overseen, hundreds of criminals he'd put behind bars, and Arthur Hale was being arrested in his own driveway by a 3-year rookie who couldn't imagine a black man earning enough to live in Maple Heights. This is happening, Hale said quietly, more to himself than to Garcia. This is actually happening. Garcia guided Hale toward the patrol car, his hand on Hale's arm, his body camera, recording every step. Neither man yet understood that this walk from driveway to vehicle would end Garcia's career, cost Phoenix $4.1 million, and become evidence in federal civil rights training sessions for years to come. Mrs. Chen pulled out her phone and began recording. Other neighbors emerged from their houses, drawn by the commotion. The arrest of Arthur Hale was being documented from multiple angles by multiple witnesses, creating an evidence trail that would prove impossible to dispute or dismiss. As Garcia opened the rear door of his patrol car, neither he nor Hale could have predicted that this moment would become a turning point, not just in their individual lives, but in Phoenix PD's approach to community policing, officer accountability, and the price of assumptions in America's most exclusive neighborhoods. The FBI Phoenix field office received the alert at 10:17 a.m. Regional Director Arthur Hale had missed his scheduled check-in call. Agent Maria Cruz, Hale's deputy and second-in-command, immediately initiated emergency protocol. When a federal law enforcement executive goes silent, especially someone with Hale's security clearance and caseload, the response is immediate and overwhelming. Cruz dispatched 4 agents to Hale's last known location while simultaneously tracking his phone's GPS signal. The coordinates led directly to 2247 Maple Drive in Maple Heights, where Hale had said he'd be documenting his new house. What the agents found when they arrived at 10:24 a.m. was their boss sitting in the back of a Phoenix PD patrol car, handcuffed, while Officer Leo Garcia filled out Art's paperwork. Agent Sarah Kim approached Garcia's vehicle with her credentials already displayed. FBI, where is Regional Director Hale? Garcia looked up from his paperwork, confused by the sudden arrival of 4 federal agents. Who are you people? Special Agent Kim, FBI. The man you have in custody is FBI Regional Director Arthur Hale. You need to release him immediately. Garcia's face went pale as the reality of his situation began to dawn on him. He claimed to be FBI, but I thought he was lying. He wasn't lying. Those credentials you dismissed as fake, they're real. That house he said he owned, he bought it yesterday. Those keys you said could be stolen, they're his. Release him now. Before Garcia could respond, Sergeant Kevin Patel arrived on scene. Alerted by dispatch about the unusual activity in Maple Heights, Patel took one look at the 4 FBI agents, the handcuffed man in the patrol car, and Garcia's expression of dawning horror, and immediately understood that something had gone catastrophically wrong. Garcia, what the hell happened here? Sarge, I arrested someone for suspicious activity. The caller said he was casing houses, but now these agents are saying he's actually FBI. Patel approached the patrol car and looked through the window at Arthur Hale, who sat calmly despite the handcuffs cutting into his wrists. Even in custody, Hale projected the quiet authority of someone accustomed to command. Sir, I'm Sergeant Kevin Patel. Are you really FBI Regional Director?
I am.
And Officer Garcia has just made the most expensive mistake in Phoenix PD history. Patel unlocked the handcuffs immediately, his hands shaking as he processed the magnitude of the situation. Sir, I am deeply sorry. This should never have happened. Hale rubbed his wrists where the cuffs had cut into his skin, red marks clearly visible. Garcia, badge and weapon. Now. Sir? I don't think you can. Garcia. Patel interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of someone who understood that careers were ending in real time. Give me your badge and service weapon. You're suspended pending investigation. The viral footage was already spreading across social media platforms, recorded by Mrs. Chen and 3 other neighbors. FBI Regional Director arrested in his own driveway. Phoenix cop handcuffs federal law enforcement chief for taking pictures of his own house. The hashtag Maple Heights arrest was trending within hours. Garcia's 3-year career was over. He just didn't know it yet. Within 48 hours, Phoenix PD's Internal Affairs Division was forced to confront what they'd been ignoring for 3 years. Leo Garcia's personnel file contained a pattern so obvious that only willful blindness could explain how he'd remained on patrol. 7 complaints in 3 years. 7 incidents involving the same behavior in the same type of neighborhoods with the same demographic targets. Detective Lisa Warren, assigned to investigate the Hale arrest, spread Garcia's file across her desk and felt sick reviewing what should have ended his career years earlier. Complaint Scene 1. Garcia questioned a black family having a barbecue in Arcadia Park, demanding to see their permit despite the fact that permits weren't required for family gatherings. The family had been coming to that park for 5 years. Complaint dismissed after Garcia completed community sensitivity training. Complaint 10-2. Garcia detained a black teenager skateboarding in Paradise Valley, searching his backpack without consent and calling his parents to verify he lived in the neighborhood. The teenager's father was a Superior Court judge. Complaint sustained. Garcia received a written reprimand. Complaint Scene 3. Garcia stopped a black woman jogging in Ahwatukee, questioning why she was in that neighborhood and asking for identification. She was a cardiologist who lived 2 blocks away and had been jogging that route for 8 years. Training recommended. Complaint Scene 4. Garcia followed a black man leaving a law office in Central Phoenix, ultimately detaining him for suspicious behavior. The man was a partner at the firm. Another sensitivity workshop ordered. Complaints in 5, none 6, and 7 followed identical patterns. Black professionals questioned in affluent areas. Garcia assuming they didn't belong. Residents and supervisors filing complaints that were documented, filed, and forgotten. Detective Warren's investigation revealed the systematic failure that had enabled Garcia's pattern. Each complaint was handled in isolation. No supervisor connected the incidents. No one recognized that 7 similar complaints in 3 years indicated a problem requiring termination, not training. Sergeant Patel, when interviewed, admitted he'd noticed Garcia's enthusiasm for questioning people in upscale neighborhoods, but had interpreted it as proactive policing rather than racial profiling. He was good at maintaining low crime statistics, Patel explained. His stops and searches often led to arrests. But those arrests, Warren discovered, were predominantly of Black and Hispanic individuals in white neighborhoods. Traffic violations that escalated to vehicle searches, suspicious person calls that resulted in trespassing charges. Garcia had built his reputation on arrests that federal investigators would later classify as civil rights violations. The FBI's parallel investigation, led by Agent Cruz, uncovered additional evidence that Phoenix PD had ignored. Garcia's body camera footage from previous incidents showed similar patterns of assumption, escalation, and dismissal of credentials or explanations. The Hale arrest wasn't an aberration. It was the inevitable result of 3 years of unchecked bias. Phoenix Police Chief Robert Martinez was forced to admit publicly that the department's complaint system had failed catastrophically. 7 incidents had been treated as isolated events rather than components of a clear pattern requiring immediate intervention. Garcia's termination became inevitable, not just because he'd arrested a federal law enforcement director, but because the investigation revealed a 3-year pattern of behavior that should have ended his career after complaint number 3. The settlement negotiations lasted 6 months, but the outcome was never in doubt. Phoenix city attorneys reviewed the evidence and reached the same conclusion as federal investigators. The case was indefensible. Body camera footage showed everything. Garcia dismissing federal credentials as fake, Hale providing keys, neighbor testimony, and reasonable explanations. Garcia escalating despite mounting evidence, the arrest of a federal law enforcement director in his own driveway, captured from multiple angles by multiple witnesses. Arthur Hale's lawsuit demanded accountability not just for Garcia's actions, but for the system that enabled them. 7 complaints over 3 years, a pattern ignored by supervisors who valued arrest statistics over civil rights. Training that changed nothing because no one ensured Garcia applied what he learned. The settlement, $4.1 million paid to Hale, the largest civil rights payout in Phoenix history for a wrongful arrest on private property. Leo Garcia's law enforcement career ended permanently. His name entered the National Decertification Database, preventing him from working as a police officer anywhere in the United States. At 28 years old, 3 years out of the academy, Garcia discovered that some mistakes destroy futures completely. Chloe Harrison, the neighbor who called 911, faced social media backlash and moved out of Maple Heights within 8 months. The viral footage made her nationally recognizable as someone who called police on a Black homeowner for documenting his own house. Phoenix PD implemented sweeping reforms: automatic termination for officers with 3 sustained discrimination complaints, mandatory federal credential verification before any arrest, body camera review within 24 hours of all residential confrontations, pattern recognition software to flag problematic behavior before it escalated. Arthur Hale testified before Phoenix City Council. I'm FBI Regional Director with 27 years of federal service. I showed my credentials, provided house keys, and had neighbors vouch for me. Garcia arrested me anyway because he couldn't imagine a Black man belonging in Maple Heights. If this can happen to me, what happens to people without federal badges? The $4.1 million settlement sent a clear message. Assumptions about who belongs where carry consequences. Garcia learned that bias backed by authority doesn't just harm individuals, it destroys the careers of those who enforce it without question. Hale still lives at 147 Maple Drive. Garcia works retail in a different state. His law enforcement dreams ended by 30 minutes of documented racial profiling in an expensive neighborhood. And if you believe documenting these moments matters, tap that subscribe button. We're not stopping the work. We're continuing to track the patterns, continuing to insist on better treatment, continuing to support the people who deserve safety without conditions. This isn't about a single authority figure or a single encounter. It's about the system shaping how people are treated every day.